Well, South Korea is an export-dependent economy, so obviously it is quite vulnerable to the swings in the credit markets internationally. In fact, some people have been concerned that South Korea had too much external debt compared to a lot of other economies and wouldn't be able to weather the storm. I managed to talk to the finance minister recently, and we had lunch together, and this is what he had to say about the health of the economy.
Around the kitchen table in South Korea, there's an old saying, after the rain falls, the ground gets tougher. The same goes for the nation's economy, says Finance Minister Yoon Jung-hyun. Over lunch, the minister told me after a few rough months, the economy is starting to show signs of a recovery. Factory production is up, the balance of trade is healthy, and the government sold $3 billion in bonds overseas, 50% more than they had planned. Yet, he said, the nation isn't out of the woods just yet.
It's too early to be optimistic about the situation because we see a mixture of positive and negative factors. Therefore, from the government's perspective, we think that we still need to closely monitor the world economy.
Is this the bottom? Do you think that the economy is bottoming out?
The common view is that the world economy will bottom out at the end of this year or early next year. Since the Korean economy relies heavily on external factors, I think it would be difficult for our economy not to follow that trend.
Overseas, there's still concern about South Korea's external debt, that the country is too exposed to the credit markets and that it might not have enough currency reserves to pay back the debt. Are those fears justified?
We have $206 billion US dollars, and if you look at the debt that is mature or becoming mature in the next 1 year or so, it is $150 billion. So even if we needed to pay off all of that debt at once, we would still have sufficient reserves to cover that. Also, I think the international confidence in our ability to pay has been well shown through the global bond that we recently issued.
What keeps you up at night? What are you most worried about?
We depend a significant portion on exports. If a crisis breaks out outside of Korea, that will directly impact the economy. So one of the things I worry about the most is how we can grow our domestic market to reduce our vulnerability.
And in the short term, Anna, the finance minister told me that the government wants to save jobs. They have launched what's called here a job sharing campaign. And basically that means that they're trying to get companies to get more creative about, saving jobs, to get, allow people to use different shifts, etc., in order to keep as many people on the books as possible. Longer term, though, he's hoping that South Korea will be able to change the structure of the economy, and they hope to invest more in the services sector so that South Koreans will be more competitive in the services industries globally.
Humanitarian officials say civilians caught in Sri Lanka's crossfire face a potential catastrophe. The Red Cross fears a final assault on Tamil rebels by government forces could kill thousands of people. The government insists the fighting will continue until the rebels are crushed. Cubans are welcoming President Barack Obama's decision to ease long-standing American travel and financial limits. The new policy will allow Cuban Americans unlimited visits to relatives in the island nation, and they can transfer as much money home as they like. President Obama hopes his move will help create a more democratic Cuba.
China's announced major reforms for its healthcare system. Beijing is pledging to provide improved medical services to its 1 billion plus citizens by the year 2020. The high cost and poor availability prevalent in the current system has long been a bone of contention with the public. Have cyber spies penetrated America's electrical grid? Citing current and former national security officials, the Wall Street Journal reports that potential adversaries, including hackers from China and Russia, have been snooping around inside the U.S. power network. So far, they haven't attempted any damage, but experts warn that they have left behind software programs that could be used to disrupt vital power supplies in times of national emergency. U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is calling for tighter controls over tourism in Antarctica. She's also calling for global cooperation to preserve the continent's environmental and scientific research value. Clinton said that the Obama administration is concerned about the growing popularity of tourism in the region and the pollution it creates.
It's being touted as the ultimate in eco-chic, an outfit that's fit for even the most discerning of fashionistas. It's not made of rich silks or expensive leathers, but something that's both environmentally friendly and recession-friendly. Sasha Harriman takes a closer look.
This is a plastic bottle, this is a suit. The link doesn't end there. This suit is made out of 50 of these. Here at Debenhams in London, they're rather pleased with their new stock.
The eco-suit is stylish, but with the current mindset of being more green, switching lights off, taking your bottles to the recycle bank, the suit basically encaptures all of that.
It's made of melted down plastic that's woven into polyester fibres to create a machine washable, biodegradable jacket and trousers costing $80. So what about our shoppers, recycled or not? I wore my definitely not plastic jacket. My colleague Jess sported the plastic number to see if anyone could tell the difference.
I think your jacket.
Hang on, I'm not in plastic.
This is going to be your working gear, is it?
Yes, for both of us, yes.
For both of you. I think I prefer that to that. Yes, I'm recycled too myself. I recycle everything. No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I do love that very, very. Where'd you get that from? I like that.
She's actually more interested in Jess's green shirt. The suit, what about the suit? Never mind. You've all lost the polyester thread by now. You'll have to be the judge. Sasha Harriman, CNN, London.
Just before 3 p.m. Eastern Time, the moment Europe has been waiting for. President and Mrs. Obama have arrived. While her yellow dress is likely already sparking a fashion debate, it's not the only choice people will be watching. One of the first tests of protocol for the Obamas? Gifts.
What the Kennedys always used to bring, and which always scored beautifully, was something historic. They would buy an historic letter. They had one from Lafayette to George Washington, which they gave to General de Gaulle.
Leticia Baldridge was Jacqueline Kennedy's White House social secretary. The goal for gifts to a head of state? Be thoughtful. And hopefully avoid the now infamous outrage surrounding the 25 DVDs President Obama offered to British Prime Minister Gordon Brown when he visited Washington in early March. The classic American films were met with a pen holder carved from the sister ship of the vessel whose wood was used to make the desk in the Oval Office. The British press railed. Lesson learned. But what about the other lessons, like whether or not to curtsy when meeting the Queen?
I hope they have been told not to grab her hands and shake them vigorously, not to touch the Queen in any way, and to allow her to speak first and raise each topic of conversation.
That test comes Wednesday afternoon when the President and Mrs. Obama join Queen Elizabeth for tea. As for the curtsy, Royal Watcher Strobe says it's no longer required. One of the most important things the Obamas can do? Be themselves. And don't be afraid to make a mistake.
Egypt, thou knewest too well.
Words of William Shakespeare, who immortalized the tragedy of Antony and Cleopatra, the two lovers who famously committed suicide rather than surrender to the Roman army. Now archaeologists say that they could be on the brink of discovering their tomb, which could be bigger than that of King Tutankhamun. Ben Wiedemann examines the clues of Cleopatra and Mark Antony.
Skulls and bones, the latest discoveries in a land blessed with an embarrassment of archaeological riches.
There is hundreds of tombs near the temple, and also there are tombs in the west side of the temple.
These recently uncovered tombs west of Alexandria date back more than 2,000 years. And at this site, around an ancient Egyptian temple, or rather underneath it, archaeologists believe could be the bodies of star-crossed lovers Mark Antony and Cleopatra, most memorably portrayed by Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Antony and Cleopatra took their lives in 30 BC after a power struggle with Antony's main rival, Octavian. According to the Roman historian Plutarch, Octavian, who later became the first emperor of Rome, gave orders that Cleopatra be buried in a splendid and regal fashion, along with Mark Antony. The question is, where? It was thought they were buried in Cleopatra's palace in Alexandria, now underwater, but Dominican archaeologist Kathleen Martinez says the old theory doesn't make sense.
I believe it was not possible for her to bury it there because of her political situation. It was the end of the Ptolemies, it was the end of Egypt as a free country, and she could not use the same cemetery. She needed a special place.
And this could be that special place. So far, they've uncovered a variety of likenesses of Cleopatra and possibly Antony.
We discovered inside the temple a head of Cleopatra. It's a beautiful head made of alabaster, and 22 coins has the face of Cleopatra.
They've also found these two as yet unidentified mummies. Underneath the crumbling cloth, the mummies are covered in gold, or so we're told. What we have inside this tomb does appear to be the mummies of a man and a woman. Now, is it Mark Antony and Cleopatra? It is very difficult to say, but certainly does make one think and wonder. Using ground-penetrating radar, archaeologists detected 3 underground cavities within the temple compound that could be tombs or burial shafts, one of which might contain the remains of Antony and Cleopatra, or might just contain more anonymous skulls and bones. Ben Wiedemann, CNN, west of Alexandria, Egypt.
Good things sometimes come in small packages, and when a natural disaster hits, people around the world have found that the contents inside a simple plastic box can be key to keeping them alive. As part of our Impact Your World series, Boyd Hubbard introduces us to the man who came up with the idea of the shelter box.
Okay. Everyone talks of thinking out of the box, but one of the best recent ideas in the service of mankind has come from inside it.
After watching a news program of a disaster unfolding somewhere in the world, I just decided that I'd try and make a difference.
Tom Henderson is the former British Navyman behind Shelter Box. Shelter, like the name says, in a box. With the help of donated funds, 80,000 shelter boxes have been shipped to disaster survivors in 57 countries, Italy the latest. These pictures were taken of shelter box recipients after last week's earthquake.
And by putting up these screens, you have privacy so you can put children on one side. But this tent is really to be the home for someone for 6 months.
But it's not just the tent.
This is a wind-up radio.
Also in each box,
we put in blankets.
Essential supplies such as hand tools, mosquito netting, and a cooker.
If you put a cooker into a shelter, you're turning a shelter into a home.
Shelter boxes served some 12,000 Americans after Hurricane Katrina.
So there's no question these have saved lives. And they've actually helped giving life. We've actually had babies born in these tents.
Born like Tom Henderson's idea, something very good in a small package.
So yeah, the name's in the box, shelter box.
The Fortune 500 list of the biggest companies in the U.S. is currently out, and there has been a change at the top. ExxonMobil has returned to the #1 position. Despite plummeting oil prices, the energy giant made a profit of more than $45 billion in 2008. Now, dropping out of first place into second was Walmart, but it still did pretty well. It made a tidy $13.4 billion in profit as hard-hit consumers looked for bargains.
Some central bank cuts rates to keep their economies stable. In Zimbabwe, the top banker has admitted he simply stole private money. Zimbabwe's Reserve Bank Governor, Gideon Gono, says he helped himself to money from the bank accounts of businesses and foreign aid groups, and he used it to keep the government going. Gono has said the foreign currency will be returned once government ministries repay the bank.
China's consumer spending fell in the first quarter, and prices for everything from food to clothing are starting to dip. And now Chinese authorities are fearing deflation. Eunice Yoon has the story.
Zhang Liman is browsing for a new pair of shoes in this store in Shenzhen, China. Like many other shoppers these days, she thinks she might be able to get a better deal if she holds off a little bit longer.
I am keeping an eye on the price. I have something in mind that I want, and if the price continues to fall, I will come back again later.
Zhang's decision to delay her purchase might sound like frugal shopping, but for the Chinese government, it could be the beginning of a worrisome trend.
Just like in many other parts of the world, prices in China are starting to come down. That might be good news for shoppers, but Chinese authorities see deflation as a major threat to the economy this year.
Deflation or falling prices can lead to a cascade of economic problems. In the worst-case scenario, consumers delay their spending. That squeezes company profits, leading to wage cuts, job losses, declining investment, and in the end, a struggling economy can end up drowning. China's consumer prices dipped for the first time in 6 years this winter, mainly because of falling food prices. Officials from China's central bank say ample cash reserves and active bank lending will keep the country from entering a long-term deflationary spiral. Analysts say China's cheaper food could actually encourage people to shop more for other goods.
Fortunately, in China, demand is still very robust and income growth is very robust. So households have the purchasing power, the income growth that allows them to spend. They also have confidence in the government.
Even if the government can keep deflation in check, it's still fighting to spur growth and create jobs as consumers around the world buy fewer Chinese goods. Until shoppers worldwide start to open their wallets, economists say China's economy is unlikely to spring forth with double-digit growth seen in years past. Eunice Yoon, CNN, Guangdong, China.
Well, as part of CNN's Luxury Week coverage, we look now at the little luxuries, the massage, the manicure, the trendy haircut. Once commonplace expenses, now under intense scrutiny in a world where every dollar, euro, pound and yen counts. But as Maggie Lake reports, some people are still spending.
A touch of serenity in a world screaming with negative news. This is the Dory Baxter Spa in the heart of Manhattan. People are cutting back on luxuries, but the spa's owner says not as much as she had anticipated. How are things holding up?
Actually, much better than we anticipated. There is a 20% drop in the revenues, but still it's a big item for gifts for people. People feel like it's a great gift because people need an escape. They don't have a guilt that they are indulging when others are suffering. The 1930s guilt is over. That was their parents. Yeah. They just feel they work hard enough and they deserve it.
A little something.
Yes.
For some, keeping up appearances in a tough economy isn't a luxury, it's a necessity.
Hair salon owner Alan Tossler of Tossler and Davis on Fifth Avenue says even customers who've lost their jobs are still coming in.
People are unemployed, they're obviously, they're going to be interviewing, looking for work, and, they want to look the best. And if you are going to spend some money, hair is the one place where it will have the biggest effect.
So far, the recession hasn't cut into the hair salon's profits, but both of these business owners say they aren't taking anything for granted.
If you want to stay in business in this economy, you have to accommodate the consumer.
People are choosing to spend the money, in here, so you want to be, you're definitely thankful.
Thankful indeed that in this stressful business environment, some little luxuries are still worth paying for. Maggie Lake, CNN, New York.
Seems like everybody is here. Let's get started. Has everyone got a copy of today's agenda?
Yes.
Good. We're here today to discuss ways to advertise our new product. Let's have a brainstorming session. I suggest we go around the table to get your ideas.
Well, off the top of my head, we can offer free samples.
It makes sense. Okay, since we are running out of time, if nobody has anything else to add, let's wrap up the meeting. Please think of better ideas and we'll choose the best one at the next meeting.
Can we fix the schedule for the next meeting, please?
What about the following Tuesday at 10? Let's move on to the next item, investing in the R&D in Vietnam. Any opinions?
I definitely think now is the time to invest in the R&D in that country.
I'm afraid I can't agree with you, So-hyun. It's too early for that.
I don't quite follow you. Could you be a little more specific, John?
Because of the economic downturn in that country, investing there at this point in time will not guarantee any return.
What about you, So-hyun?
Let me put it this way. Since last year, we've been investing in R&D in Indonesia. Although the economy was stagnant in Indonesia, we've maintained a trade surplus so far this year. I think that's because of the R&D efforts.
I see. I guess we need to do thorough research and weigh the pros and cons on this issue.
Hello, I'm John Force in Beijing. My guest this week is a national hero, and we follow him from rehearsals in New York to an emotional homecoming in this building right here. His name is Long Long, and this is Talk Asia. When they write about you, they write things like more MTV than Mozart, more Bon Jovi than Beethoven. If Jerry Lewis was a classic pianist, he'd be Long Long. Do all these things rest easy with you? Are they accurate when they write those kind of things?
I don't think so. I mean, first of all, that it's nice to hear something, fresh or something different than the normal image of a classical musician. But I am playing Beethoven and I am playing Mozart.
Well, but why do they write that kind of thing? Why do you think they have this image of you?
I don't really know, but maybe I don't play like what they normally expect.
Can you explain what happens to you when you get up on stage, when you perform?
Yeah, actually, that process is the best part of being a pianist, which is when I'm walk on the stage. You feel it's kind of a time machine. That it's a very short walk, but it's so important. You need to have that walk to bring you
to next to the piano, and when you sit down there, you start thinking about the piece you're going to play. And then when you start, your finger, when your fingers start touching the keys, the journey starts.
So everything comes alive.
Yeah.
Are you aware of the audience at the same time?
No, I don't. I know there's some, I know that those people who listen to you sitting there.
But it's a blur.
Yeah, but you don't really know, you don't really feel that they are there. But you do feel there's a connection between music and yourself and the listener.
Would you say there's probably a bigger responsibility to maybe the 35 million kids in China who apparently have started learning the piano because of you? Do you feel a responsibility to them?
I mean, I try to bring always the positive side of playing piano when I give in the master class or charity event. I always talk about the good sides of being a musician. But obviously there's lots of hard work, and somehow you need to really focus, and unfortunately you probably missed out some part of the very exciting childhood.
Was your childhood unhappy?
I mean, I really love piano, so even sometimes I hate it when I was practicing, or I hated my father when he was very pushy. But overall, I really loved the progress of learning a piece, and it's like to watch a baby grow up. But still, I would say that I sometimes, when I see the other kid playing football or playing sports or playing Game Boys or PlayStations or computer games, I'm jealous. I'm like, why can't I? Because I'm playing Mozart.
It was tough.
And then you get the flowers on the stage and warm applause, and people love what you do.
And does that make up for it?
Yeah, at least it gives back something, and at least that I'm lucky in this way.
You work a lot. You perform 150 concerts a year. Is that about right?
I actually play this year 130 concerts.
130 this year. That's more than 2 a week on average.
Right.
That's a lot. Is it too much? Or?
I mean, it depends what you're going to do, If you do many repertoire and if you do interesting projects, it's okay. But in 2 years, I'm going to cut a big number of concerts. I think by 2011-12, I'm looking at 90 concerts a year. But in a moment, I really enjoyed it, because for me, this year is actually the 10th anniversary of for me to become a professional pianist playing in the international stage. I'm still really enjoy it, and for me it's still very exciting and fresh.
Some things are hard to predict, but I can safely say tonight's program will not be dull. Our first guest is Ashton Kutcher, actor, producer, Twitterer extraordinaire, and defeater of this network. Defeater?
Defeater?
I never heard of that. It's a new word. I invented a word. We both know, I've come to learn, you've known for a while, what Twitter is. Can you briefly explain what Twitter is?
Yeah, so Twitter is a 140-character microblog. And that's probably the easiest way to say it. It's a social media network where people can come and report whatever they are doing, whatever they're interested in, but you have to do it in 140 characters or less.
Why?
I can't speak for the founders of the company. I didn't create the company. I'm not associated with the company, but what I've been told is that they kept it to 140 characters because it was originally going to be used as just sort of an updater type feed that you know, more like a headline feed as opposed to the whole story.
And it's basically a send out process, right?
Yeah, it is a take-in process, and that's what I think has made it. I think that's what makes it incredible, because as you send out whatever information, media, news that you feel is relevant, then people send you how they feel about that or responses to that, and then you can then broadcast their response to it. And so it's really a conversation more than anything, and that's why the difference between it being just regular media and social media.
Do you think that you would, at the last rush and down to the wire in a neck-and-neck race, that you would win?
I had a good feeling I would win. There was actually a guy in Croatia who did a minute-to-minute statistical analysis based on the trending of...
May I ask, what prompted you to pick on me in that little car scene? Why me?
Well, originally, I was leaving you out of it, Larry. I was keeping it clean. You know, for me, what originated this whole thing was, I think I had 850,000 followers on my Twitter stream and I hadn't advertised, and it wasn't talking about it, it wasn't doing anything. And actually, I turned down several media requests for something because I felt like it was a relationship between me and my fans, and it was a conversation that we were having, and not a conversation for media. And so I was at 850, and I looked, and I saw that CNN was like 50,000 followers ahead of me. And I thought it to be quite significant that we now live in an age for media that a single voice can have as much power and relevance on the web, that is, as an entire media network. And I think that, to me, that was shocking. And you
picked me out?
No, I threw out. I said I actually picked out Ted Turner, and I said that I would ding dong ditch in Ted Turner's house if I beat CNN BRK to 1 million followers. And I picked Ted because Ted started CNN, and I think Ted actually, in his acquisition of AOL Time Warner and everything that took place, and in building CNN, is a maven of his own right. Then you called to have me come on CNN, and I felt like that would be just promoting the CNN BRK even more so. And so I felt, so at that point in time, when you asked me to come on the show, I said, well, why don't you come on the internet? And then you did. So now I'm here.
Well, grim financial news isn't keeping one business from blazing forward with expansion plans. Asia business editor Eunice Yoon sits down with the CEO of Circus du Soleil and helps us make sense of how the Circus Spectacular survives and thrives.
Cirque du Soleil, or Circus of the Sun. It's considered a world-class circus, blending gravity-defying acts with modern dance, music, and special effects. The company started as a small band of street performers in Canada. Now it employs over 4,000 people and generates over $600 million a year. Chief Executive Daniel Lamar told me the circus presented 17 different shows worldwide last year, including a new one in China's version of Las Vegas, Macau. He says Cirque is adding more shows this year, despite the dire projections for the economy.
In a difficult times, people are looking for something else to do. And we think that entertainment, to me, is the remedy to the crisis.
Your form of entertainment is considered high-end, a luxury that perhaps people would go see once a year. How does that affect your profits?
You know, like everybody else in the world, we're touched by the economy. But what we're seeing right now, and I've been talking to a lot of people in our industry, is that the AAA entertainment still succeed. For instance, if you take the rock concert, the Madonna and the U2 of this world are still sold out. And we consider within the theater / family entertainment, we're a AAA kind of show.
You have over 4,000 people working for you.
Yes.
How do you motivate everybody in this type of down economy?
I took a stand last week in Canada to explain to people that, normally the only way that people find to do some savings is to lay off people. And I don't believe that. I believe there are other ways of doing saving. And I've challenged all my managers and our employees to say, let's try to save our jobs together. Spending less, traveling less, not increasing salary. So from a very, very negative situation, we turn that to a positive by having people rallying behind the idea of saving our jobs.
In the U.S., there's been quite a bit of debate as to whether or not money from the stimulus plan should go to the arts industry. How should the government prioritize the arts?
Normally, people try to oppose arts and cultural, and we don't accept that because we're a good illustration that a government one day has invested $1 million to produce the first Cirque du Soleil show, and today we pay like $80 million a year of tax. It should be perceived as an investment.
In Guatemala, the firefighters are usually the first ones on the site of an emergency. They didn't have ambulances, they only had pickup trucks. It was difficult for me to watch these patients being transported with no medical care. I witnessed several people die. It inspired me to do something. I'm Paul Hamilton, founder of the Brave Foundation. We provide equipment and training to the volunteer firefighters of Guatemala to help make their jobs easier. I first came to Guatemala in 1996, and I was working as a paramedic in the United States, and I rode with the firefighters. They asked me if I could provide training and assist in developing this pre-hospital care program, and I said, of course. We took the U.S. EMT curriculum, and we had it translated into Spanish. Now we have 14 training programs throughout the country of Guatemala.
Paul, we want to make to everything happen. This make a big difference for our people in Guatemala.
I'm really proud of what the firemen have accomplished here. These firefighters are the true heroes.
In the culture wars, it is becoming the shot heard round the world. During the Miss USA contest, a bastion of Americana, gay rights activist and pageant judge Perez Hilton asked about legalizing gay marriage.
Vermont recently became the 4th state to legalize same-sex marriage. Do you think every state should follow suit? Why or why not?
And Miss California, Carrie Prejean, answered.
Well, I think it's great that Americans are able to choose one or the other. We live in a land that you can choose same-sex marriage or opposite marriage. And you know what? In my country and in my family, I think that I believe that a marriage should be between a man and a woman. No offense to anybody out there, but that's how I was raised, and that's how I think that it should be between a man and a woman. Thank you.
A downpour of gay people threatening the way we live.
Ever since, same-sex marriage advocates, already using satires like this one on YouTube to mock homophobia, have added Prejean to the mix, with endless internet postings about her stance. On TV, harangues at the hapless first runner-up.
Why do we even ask these girls questions? They're always so stupid.
And Hilton, a celebrity blogger, is showing up everywhere, sometimes hitting easy.
She gave an honest answer, and that upset a lot of people. I applaud her for speaking her truth, but Miss USA is not her.
And sometimes hitting hard.
She lost not because she doesn't believe in gay marriage. Miss California lost because she's a dumb okay?
Prejean says she believes the answer cost her the crown.
The new Miss USA 2009 is North Carolina.
But she's not backing down a bit. On the Today Show,
The way that I answered it, might have been offensive to people, and I said, and no offense to anybody. I did not want to offend anybody, but I think with that question specifically, it's not about being politically correct. For me, it was being biblically correct.
Who knew the All-American Beauty Pageant could get so ugly? Tom Foreman, CNN, Washington.
You've heard of airlines charging for meals, drinks, and even checking in your luggage. Now, United Airlines may force overweight or obese passengers to pay for a second ticket if they can't fit into their seat. If 2 open seats aren't available, United may even require passengers to upgrade to business class or bump them to a less crowded flight. But United is not the only airline with a heavy passenger policy. Continental, Delta, and several others have also in place similar rules.
World-famous scientist Stephen Hawking is in a London hospital. A spokesman of the Cambridge University says Hawking has been fighting a chest infection and is very ill. The 67-year-old professor has also battled a neurodegenerative disease for decades. Hawking is widely considered to be one of the greatest scientists in the world. He holds the prestigious position of Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at Cambridge.
Now, another race with a difference. Thursday sees the start of Canada's Great Turtle Race, an event organized to help wildlife experts learn more about the creature's environment. The 11 leatherback turtles have been fitted with state-of-the-art tracking devices and will be watched as they swim 3,700 miles to their nesting ground in the Caribbean. Celebrities such as Pearl Jam and R.E.M. are cheering the animals on.
Well, pop star Madonna is returning to London after a judge rejected her attempt to adopt a second child in Malawi. The judge said the singer didn't meet Malawi's strict definition of resident. Her lawyer says she'll appeal the ruling. Malawi requires prospective parents to live in the country for 18 to 24 months while being assessed by child welfare authorities. That requirement was ignored when the singer adopted her son David Vander 3 years ago.
First, I want to take you to India and show you what's been happening there. We're dominated by high pressure right here that's circulating and bringing those very warm temperatures up to the north. Now, right about now, we're getting towards max heating of the day, and you can see we're looking at Kolkata at 41, Hyderabad at about 40 degrees, and by the end of the weekend, they're actually saying that North Andhra Pradesh could see temperatures, get this, close to 50 degrees Celsius.